Eastern Cape, Northern Cape, Northwest.
Minister, niyibiza ngoba Indaba, because one of izinto ezibaluleke kuthi is to sit down together and discuss issues. Sit down as a family, sit down as different stakeholders, sithetha sihlangene. Ezi zinto ke sizibiza imbizo neindaba ngoba sihlangene. Ndiyayivuyela ke lento yenziwe apha ngale nyanga i-heritage, le nyanga yethu yobuntu, ufana silanda ubuntu bethu. Minister, the National House is very pleased to be part of in this Indaba. Have a deep interest in matters of human settlement, especially in rural communities. Therefore, we are very grateful for the opportunity to be part of this engagement and to contribute to the realization of rights of people to decent human settlement. We cannot talk decent human settlement without talking access to land, infrastructure development, access to water and sanitation, rural-urban linkage, and general provision of all necessary services for human access. It is a known factor that rural communities still face a lot of challenges, and we need to hold hands in addressing these challenges.
Mphathi Ohlelo, I am standing here duly delegated by President of Contralesa Mathupha Mokoena and the National Executive Committee of Contralesa to find expression in this gathering. Therefore, the launch of the Human Settlement Indaba and exhibition is very important to us as South Africans. We are extremely happy to support this initiative, especially that this shows that all stakeholders in the development of sustainable and safe human settlement are serious about bringing the no-do gap across the spectrum by fostering an environment in the African region, particularly South Africa, that will encourage the creation, sharing, and effective application of knowledge to improve lives of our people at all levels. South Africa has recognized human settlement and rural-urban development as critical element of our national development plan. Our integrated rural and urban development framework seeks to address urbanization by recognizing that it cannot be divorced from overall economic, social, political, and physical development along the rural-urban development field. The land belongs to traditional leaders and their traditional communities. Traditional leaders are indigenous, born leaders of Africa. They are born leaders of our land. I am mentioning this very cautious, bearing in mind the sensitivity on the topic. As Contralesa, we support the launch of Human Settlement Indaba and Exception 2022. I thank you, Program Director.
So the state owns about 30,000 land parcels. The size of that land parcel in terms of each share of the South Africa land area is 4.7 million hectares. So this number is meaningless. 4.7 million hectares, you can't comprehend it. Let me bring it close to home. The size of the land area of Gauteng, the smallest province in the country, the most populous, the one that contributes 35% to the South African economy, is 1.2% of the land area of South Africa. So it means that the state owns close to 4 times the size of Gauteng, but the state is not exploiting those opportunities. So the state must sweat its own assets. The state minister has got over 90,000 facilities. You go to the traditional CBDs, there's abandoned derelict buildings. We are looking to do greenfields development. Our argument is that repurpose the existing buildings. Because there's a sunk cost already in there, you are able to accelerate the delivery better, you bring people closer to economic opportunities, and in fact, by extension, you are creating, if you like, a new city working on the infrastructure of an existing apartheid city. New in this instance is that it's integrated, it's deracialized, you are able to transform the space, also how people interact with that space. That's the point that we are making, Minister. So as we explore other opportunities, the state must look at its own opportunities. Here's buildings, call the private sector, repurpose the building, house the poor, and in that way you are able to bring down the cost of delivery of the unit, because you don't have to accommodate, if you like, bulk. Or if you have to improve the bulk, it's not of the state that is associated with greenfields. And this is what we want to resolve. The tension between the poor and the rich, affluence and access on the one side, deficit and squalor on the one side, because posterity will not have the most glamorous reflections on the work that we have done. And the best way manifestation of the resolution of the South African question is in spatial terms and human settlements. Thanks, Minister.
That's not a correction, but you are outdated. Professor
Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, our country is facing considerable housing challenges, especially for the low-income households and poor, especially the indigent houses. This gathering that brings together local government, parliamentarians, civil society, local communities, the private sector, professionals and practitioners, the scientific and academic community, and other relevant stakeholders is important and an intervention that is highly needed in the quest to find solutions to the housing problems or challenges that we face. In the midst of these challenges, the Department of Human Settlements has been making attempts to streamline the housing delivery processes. Over time, changes have been made to introduce policies, to amend the grant frameworks, and implement methodologies so that the housing delivery system could be more responsive to the changing demand patterns of the housing market. Most significantly, there has been a noticeable increase in the demand for affordable rental and social housing market. There's also been an increase in the number of people who are yearning for government to provide them with service lands so that they can be able to build for themselves. Beyond the obligation for the provision of breaking new ground, BNG houses, which commonly known as RDP, government has a responsibility to crowd in resources for the provision for other markets that fall outside the funding solution of the commercial property funders. Progress has been made in forging relationships with the private sector and other funding institutions for the satisfaction of the demand in these markets. However, the current backlog in the provision of housing in South Africa requires an urgent review to realize upscaled delivery targets. As government, we are utilizing all the available resources to create a conducive environment for partners in the private sector and development finance institutions to invest in this sector. Within government, the Department of Human Settlements, Social Housing Regulatory Agency, Authority, and the National Housing Finance Corporation have initiated a collaboration or collaborative relationship with the Infrastructure Fund to create a framework for large-scale financing proposals for catalyzing the implementation of the social housing projects. In this financial year, the department will implement its affordable housing program in the mining communities in partnership with mining companies. To strengthen our partnership with mining companies, we are currently developing a partnership framework between government and the mining companies that will guide the joint design and implementation of partnership projects in identified municipalities. And this is one of the examples that we are utilizing. We're starting with the mining community, and we are hoping that we'll expand beyond just the mining community, but to many of the sectors that have low income earners within their environment, that we could be able to partner and provide affordable accommodation for them in partnership with those sectors. Similarly with government, we have signed, NHFC has signed a memorandum of understanding between themselves and government employee housing scheme. This will also respond to what Professor Ramokgopa was talking about, where we are seeing dilapidated buildings within inner cities. This will be one of the opportunities that we could convert these buildings into affordable rental and accommodation, so that government employees don't have to travel far away from their work environment. And this, we believe, will respond to the market of employees within government space that are currently battling to be able to access loans from commercial banks, housing finance from commercial banks. The Department of Public Works nationally has identified almost 14,000 hectares of land that is suitable for human settlement and is being transferred to our housing development agency so that we can utilize that land across the country for human settlement. This is part of the projects that government has taken as part of the land redistribution program to be able to ensure that land that is suitable for human settlements is transferred for human settlement purposes, but also to assist us in terms of ensuring that we can be able to redress the past and ensure that we destroy the apartheid special development planning that currently persists in our country, where you find that majority of the people are staying far away from the job, that their economic opportunities that exist, or even social facilities that exist. Majority of the people are spending almost 70% income of their income into transport, and we believe that human settlement has a responsibility to be able to play in redressing this area. I would also like to reaffirm our commitment to increasing partnership with communities in the delivery of services. The People's Housing Program will help us to strengthen community participation and to encourage community projects ownership. We know that part of the issues that we are talking about is a recalling of all the communities to be able to be part and form partnership through the social compacting. And I'm looking forward to the participation by civil society in this area and communities, so that we can all find solutions. How do we ensure that we become partners in this process? How do we bring back communities to be part of the building of the houses? And we do believe that when we go into the issue back and bringing back, especially in addressing the rural communities, the Letsema People's Housing Program will be able to assist us to redress and ensure that people are brought on board to be able to help us in building and providing solutions. We will continue to emphasize the implementation of the national sector-wide programmatic approach on set-asides for provinces, metropolitan municipalities, accredited municipalities for human settlements grant. The approach dictates that there should be a 40% set-aside for women on procurement budgets on all levels. And actually, MECs, I was requested that I must start publishing on the website which municipalities, which provinces are doing better. And I thought of MEC Magama that he will be the first one to agree, because he's been doing very well in that regard. So we will be starting to publish them. We'll put it quarterly as part of our monitoring and evaluation, so that the public can start believing in what we say is policy. So the 40% set aside, the 15% of youth, and people with disability and military veterans will be published quarterly as part of monitoring. So we're looking forward to provinces competing as well to surpass each other in meeting these targets. The coming into operation of the Property Practitioners Regulatory Authority presents an opportunity to transform the property management sector and empower Black and Africans, in particular women, youth, and persons with disability. So this area as well, it's one of the areas that we think that it's more important, and because we do have we are establishing a transformational fund under that area. We do have other transformational initiatives that we've done under NHBRC as well, and including NHFC. We'll continue to do this because we understand that transformation does not happen out of osmosis. It is a deliberate act, and we must be consciously driving transformation and building an inclusive economy in our country. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased that the deliberation in this Indaba will include the following. Project planning. Our project planning needs to improve in terms of our coordination amongst the various stakeholders. I've highlighted this. Project financing, which I've also highlighted in terms of innovative ways of finding funding mechanism. Regulatory framework, so that we can be able to improve in terms of the turnaround time, but reduce the burden on small businesses even worse. The presentation area showed even in terms of the improvement need around this area. Community participation, so that we can ensure that there is inclusive participation, but the social compacting process is meaningful and it delivers results. Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered under the theme transforming human settlements environment through accelerated planning, implementation, and public-private partnership. And this is a reflection of our urgent intent to change the housing delivery trajectory. I'm quite confident that with the brain power that will be participating in this gathering, we will come out of this Indaba with a concrete plan on taking the sector forward, strengthening the public and private partnership, and increasing its economic output of the sector. Ours is to be reminded that our mission is derived from the Freedom Charter. There shall be houses, security, and comfort. Thank you very much, and I wish you.
Thank you, Minister. If we can just focus on housing, we can deal with a lot of the challenges that we have. And the reason he said that, he was saying, don't look at housing as just the construction of the house, but look at the total value chain. And that value chain, what he was trying to say to us was, within housing, you can create small businesses, entrepreneurs. Within housing, you can actually create jobs, because by its nature, it's labor intensive. And last but not least, within that housing value chain, there's actually political stability. Because if there's housing delivered, the likelihood is that there's going to be political stability. So we cannot underestimate, I think, the role of human settlements, the role of housing. And that's why it becomes very important that when we have such Indabas, we get to understand what we need to do or what we need to unblock so that we can deliver more housing.
There's still people that are actually in our very own country, and we are fortunate that as we sit here, if we were to go and access an ATM, most of us would have options and choices. In our very own country, there's still people that would actually have to be able to drive almost 4 hours just to go access an ATM. And out of that 4 hours, they'll probably have to actually almost spend 25 rand, even if they wanted to actually withdraw 50 rand of the 25 rand. So that kind of an opportunity says, obviously, though there are some that are more able and while others are still disabled, and therefore, how do we actually create that opportunity to do so? A coordinated effort is actually required in this particular instance for us to be able to realize the opportunity to bring all of us and those unlimited resources to actually bring the opportunity of us being able to transform our human settlement and be able to transform and bring the facilities and transformation to those that actually need it the most. So it is at this effort at this conference, at this Indaba, that we've got everybody and saying, how are we going to leverage on our opportunities? How are we going to leverage on our initiatives, and those initiatives that will enable us to actually be able to pull together and make sure that our deliverables really result and actually touch the lives that it's meant to touch and transform the lives of our citizens. I thank you, Chairperson. Thank you.
What we need is we need to overcome the general red tape stumbling blocks in town planning, environmental approval, urban design principles, concepts. I think for too long, and with respect, there's a few developers in the room, we've been hamstrung by, we want to deliver housing, we want to deliver property. I think from human settlements, Honourable Minister, you've had the budget, you had to drive, but we've been hamstrung by municipalities that does not want to open up their town planning departments, that does not want to open up and fast-track these processes, environmental processes. And then you can turn it around and say, but hang on, environmental is important. Now it is important, but we're speaking about human rights here. We're speaking about people staying in informal settlements. We're speaking about people that don't have running water and don't have electricity. But what's the effect of that? Again, why is human settlements so important? If we look at what human settlements bring us primarily located houses closer to job opportunities. What does that do? And I don't want to reiterate what my previous colleague said. It saves on travel costs. Travel costs with the current fuel price becoming, if you look at the lower end of the market, more than 1/5, touching 40% of consumable income. That's a severe number. What else can they do with it? How much more food can they put on the table if it wasn't for that? Look after the elderly, less pressure on government again, or government grants. But what human settlements mostly bring, which people discard, we have our kids growing up in better homes, better conditions, they're able to study better and provide a better future for the whole of South Africa. And I think that's the biggest thing that human settlements bring. And that's what everyone don't look at the direct benefit. And that's why it's so important that we find a way to overcome this. So if we look at how do we do this, I already said town planning departments, environmental sensitive areas, we need a quicker way to around that. And I know.
And to you, Minister, and to the team, as business, and in particular as black business, what are we looking for? We are looking for a sustainable and meaningful partnership with government. We are looking for a government that is listening to us because we do have solutions. And number three, we are looking at a government that will put aside those people who are in government but don't want to listen to us when we come with proposals. They must step aside. This is the time for implementation. We have spoken sufficiently, Minister. When I listened to Professor Ramohopa and I listened to the Minister, our speeches here were irrelevant. Those speeches had solutions. The problem is that we are not implementing because we have people who are not willing to do what they are employed to do. That is our problem. So I will focus on three things briefly, Minister. One is the issue of innovative funding. Two will be the issue of red tape. And three will be an issue of law and order. So gross fixed capital formation is there. We just need to work together to make sure that we go into implementation. One of the issues around this figure, the most interesting thing is that the bulk of this is sitting with established white developers. Now, Minister, this country needs to make sure that transformation of the economy happens. So as the municipalities enter into this partnerships with our white counterparts, they must also know that we are there, we exist, and we also want to participate. So transformation is very important. By this I mean, there must be a share that is set aside for black businesses. And that's why we need innovative funding, so that when we come to the table, we are not asked, where is your money? And then we can't produce it, because we don't have balance sheets. So when we are asked by our white counterparts, where is your money? We must come there with the NHFC, Minister. They must give us money. So that when we speak to our white counterparts, we can also have a voice around the table. If the project is 100 million and I want 40% of that, NHFC must give me 40 million. So that when I sit around, I can have a voice on that table.
So, Minister, we want to work together with you to make sure that this wonderful vehicle called the NHFC is transformed into this Human Settlements Development Bank. We need to get there as soon as possible so that our people can have access to money. Let us not be apologetic about empowering our people. We can't have a president saying 40% must go to women, and then nobody does anything about it. We don't have a policy. We cannot. The one that is supposed to draft the policy, that person is not drafting the policy. Aside, Minister. Please, we will hire people who are willing to work and give us policies that must work for our people here. So we need to see more transformation as far as the human settlements value chain is concerned. We must have black suppliers of aggregates and materials. When are we going to have them if we don't have those set-asides guaranteed for our people? Because we can't compete with price. We can't compete with many other things, but we need our government to work collaboratively with us to make sure that we do achieve that at the end of the day.